Good afternoon, and thank you so much for joining Associated Black Charities on our afternoon Lunch and Learn webinar, Equity at Work. My name is Chrissy Thornton. I serve as ABC's president and CEO, and I'm so excited about the opportunity to bring our commitment to equity in workplaces into 2025 with the first webinar of the year, January 2025. So what do we know? Equity. It might not be in your workplace today, but certainly it is a steadfast commitment of ABCs to make sure that we not only talk about the things that impact Black communities in workplaces, but that we equip those who care about inclusion, despite the times that we are experiencing now, to have not only the insight, but the tools to navigate inequitable workspaces, the resources and guidance so that you can stand up and fight against inequity in your own ways. And certainly, as we watch what's happening across the nation, we would hope that your personal commitment to equity for Black communities and other communities is unwavering. So today, welcome to Equity at Work. I'm so glad to be your host. Today, we are talking about the impact of AI and automation on workplace equity. And I must tell you, I am really, really excited about this conversation and the expertise that we will experience. I am a self-proclaimed AI aficionado. Like, I use it for everything. When I say everything, I'm so glad to share everything because I think so many people can benefit from using it responsibly and knowing about maybe also some of the detriments that it brings forward. So today, we are talking about how AI and automation are rapidly reshaping workplaces. And while these technologies offer opportunities for career growth, for inclusivity, and for revenue generation. Like, if we figure out how to monetize them, they can be the thing that creates significant economic empowerment for Black communities. They also have risks. They perpetuate biases in some occasions and displace workers possibly. And we are concerned that it could particularly affect roles that disproportionately will affect Black employees and Black workers. So today we're going to talk about a myriad of things, but you're not here to hear from me. You're here to hear from the panelists who are bringing their expertise forward. So at this time, I'm going to ask both of them to join me on the webinar on camera. Welcome, welcome.
Hey.
Hello, great to be here.
Thank you to both of you for being here with us. We have Erica Miller and Iris Lewis here with us today. And I'm going to ask each of you to take just a moment to introduce yourselves, to talk about why you think today's conversation is important, and also to give our viewing participants just a little bit of background information about what brings you to the conversation. And we'll start with that. Oh, okay. We'll start with Erica. Sounds great to me.
That's not to steal your thunder, Dr. Lewis. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Erica Miller, the CEO of Analogics, a boutique consultancy. We specialize in helping businesses automate their day-to-day operations and leverage AI to streamline business processes to increase revenue and accelerate growth. And then I'm also the founder of NPDTM.org. We are a nonprofit focused on helping other nonprofits leverage data and technology to better tell their story so that they can secure and sustain funding to support their various initiatives. This topic is important to me. The timing could not have been more perfect. Most of the people who are tuned in are or will be likely impacted by the rapid advancements that are taking place in AI. And if people like myself and Dr. Lewis do not raise the alarm about what is happening and what we can do to uplift ourselves, our businesses, and our community, we are in a dire of great harm. So I'm excited about today's conversation.
Erica, I accept that doctor. I'm not a doctor, but I receive that. Hallelujah. I receive it, right? So my name is Iris Lewis, and I want to tell you my why. I'm a graduate of Howard University, and several years ago, I went back on campus to handle some business and drove through the neighborhood. And I was quite shocked at the gentrification that had occurred. Fast forward several years, I saw an article, Cortland Malloy, who's an opinion writer for the Washington Post, he had an article, and some students from the Cathy Hughes School of Communications were working on their PhD projects researching gentrification. And a young lady, one of the students, as she interviewed the people in the community, she was shocked that most people didn't see it coming, right? That they didn't see it coming until the people started moving into the neighborhood. And it had been going on for 20 years, right? And so for me, the issue of AI, we are in the midst of the fourth industrial revolution, which is driven by AI, which is going to significantly impact every area of our lives. And so I decided that I am going to be the town crier for AI, because
Okay.
we cannot be, we won't be left behind. You know what I'm saying? We must get in ahead of this so that we can understand how it's going to impact our communities and understand how we can leverage the technology to our benefit. So that's my why, and that's why I'm absolutely excited to be a part of this conversation.
Well, I am definitely excited right along with you. We're going to ask those who are joining us today, make sure you utilize the chat function to make sure that you can use the Q&A function to ask questions. But we want to know about your experiences. We're going to make sure you share your insights and ask your questions as well. So what is AI? What is automation? And what is it doing to the world? What is the potential it has to do to the world? We know people are using it in all kinds of ways in the workplace, and we're going to talk about that. But it can be a considerable opportunity for inclusion. We know that used the right way, with the right intention, it can take away bias in some of the evaluation, promotions, hiring processes. It can increase our access to emerging industries and create pathways for new skill development. The one thing I love about it is we talk about what it means to monetize it and to use this as a game changer for Black communities for economic advancement. Let's talk about it. What is it to you? How have you encountered it? What do you think it can do for the world? I'd love to hear from you.
So for me, I am choosing to approach the idea of AI from a strength perspective when it comes to our communities. I think that we can talk forever about the harm that it is capable of doing, right? But I think that really needing to understand, number one, how it is a door to new industries and new opportunities for people in our community. Secondly, it's relatively new, right? So it's not like it's something that everybody knows about and we're like all the way behind. If we engage in the process of learning and understanding the technology and understanding how we can leverage it in our own area of interest, because this is one technology, unlike those in the past, that is applicable to every industry, whether you're in healthcare, whether you're in law, whether you're in accounting, whether you're in education. So I think that this is definitely an opportunity for us to understand the technology and understand how we can leverage it. The barrier to entry when it comes to AI is relatively low, as you know. I mean, you can go online, get a free trial, and figure out how to use the tools. Now that is kind of the very practical application of AI. Of course, if you want to be an engineer, if you're an engineer, that requires different, but everyone can access this technology and determine how they can use it in their business, for efficiency in their everyday life, even how to run your household. Their assistants, their administrative assistant tools that you can use to help run your household. So there are so many different ways that this technology can benefit us. If you have a business and you need, you want a specific niche, you can, customizing for a particular group, a particular target, that information is there if you understand how to leverage and use the technology.
I'd love to hear from Erica, but I want to add, you mentioned barriers or low. I would say one of the largest barriers, as is usual in some communities, is distrust, right? Like a lot of people I talk to aren't willing to leverage it, embrace it, learn it, or anything else, because like most other things, it takes us forever to have enough trust to take advantage of opportunity. Erica, I'd love to hear from you.
So much I like to echo on that, and I'll come back to your comment, Christy, about trust. I'll touch on the trust issue now. We have to let go of that.
Absolutely.
We've been living, now it's time, trust is going to hold us back because, the other side is moving forward with building new businesses, finding opportunities. We are not in a position to say that we were not given a fair opportunity to get ahead. We are starting at ground zero pretty much, and the opportunities are abound. So not to sound unempathetic, but it's time for us to let go of the trust issue. In addition to that, when it comes to AI, that lack of trust has kept us out of data sets. And this is the data that is used to drive the decisions that are going to be made about your health, about your healthcare. This is the data that is going to drive as you venture out into new opportunities and begin to establish your proof of concept, or if you want to leverage AI as a part of your business to identify new revenue opportunities, to do any type of assessment or analysis on your existing customer base or even your internal staff. People that look like us are left out of the data sets. So it's time for us to do away immediately with the lack of trust and say, you know what, I'm going to build, I'm going to move forward, and the trust will come as we go. What I will say we need to do as of 5 years ago is we need to start establishing our own data sets. I think there's a rich opportunity. We contribute so much financially to companies, these big businesses. And if they had the type of data that we could potentially collect at a demographic and psychographic level and establish our own data sets, that within itself, I'm not saying sell us out, but that within itself is a money maker. So I wanted to add that in, and then to echo what Iris said, this is an opportunity for us to really think about how can we do something new with this technology that has come forth and has taken off. Just yesterday or over the weekend, DeepSight, China released a new AI model that's competing heavily with ChatGPT, generative AI here in the States. And so, we're not in that data set, but just to show you what the opportunities that exist. And if you are a business owner that is going to take, and not just, I'm not going to say business owner, if you are an individual that's wanting to explore the possibilities of AI, I do want you to also be mindful of the security risk of your personal information. If you're going to use Alexa or any other open dialogue device in your home, be mindful of the security risk that's behind that. And so I'll pause there, but that's
well, there's so much to unpack here. I'm so excited about this, but I'm gonna echo what you said about the security risk. I just told my mother in her 70s, I told her the other day, I said, make sure you monitor what you're saying. Something came out recently about the FBI monitoring text messages. We know Alexa is a listening device. People are getting arrested for their anti-Trump rhetoric. And it's like some things you can't just say out in the open because they're listening ears, right? And we know that. I am interested in knowing all the ways that people are using AI. I'll share some of mine, but then we can talk about how people are using it in the workplace. I also want to level set and say my experience with AI has been that you get out of it what you're willing to put into it. So a lot of people that'll try a ChatGPT and not get good results. My language model, which ChatGPT is so in tune with me at this point because I've used it so extensively. It knows me probably better than anybody. It speaks like me, it walks like me, it does the things. And so in some ways I've probably become over dependent on it, but it is a reflection of what I've put into it and what I've taught it. And so that matters too. And then lastly, before I ask you guys about how you use it, one of the things you talked about is data set. And that's so important because we know these models can't be inclusive if we don't participate. And it's like anything else when we talk about diseases and drug development. Well, when we don't participate in clinical trials, then our data is not reflective in the outcomes. And so in many ways, we do have to use it and teach it cultural engagement and all of those things so that we can be represented. How are you all using AI right now?
Can I go back to your statement about trust, and then I'll
Absolutely. Yes.
What I want to say is that we don't have time. People, get yourself together. in a year, in 18 months, the ship will have sailed. We do not have time to hold on to these old ways of being and thinking. At the end of the day, you know, if you know, we're very versatile people, we can pivot, you know, we can adjust, but we do not have time to linger in old ways of thinking and being, because we are going, not only us, but our communities, our children, our elderly are going to be left in the dust. So I understand the issue of trust, but what I want you to know is that we do not have time. This technology is moving at warp speed, exponential. We don't have time. So that's
Mhm.
what I wanted to say about the trust piece. I understand it, but it is not rational, and we do not have the leverage. We don't have we can't wait. We have to move. Okay. So that's that. So how am I using AI? I use of course I use ChatGPT, I use Chat Assist, I use Galaxy AI as a thought generator. So again, I don't use it to create what I'm doing. I use it as a thought generator. And everyone can use this as a thought generator, because your thoughts are your thoughts. You go in. One of the things that's really important about these learning language models like ChatGPT, Galaxy AI, Perplexity, is that the prompting matters, right? You know, which is why I was in a webinar last week, and there's a local university that is in their English department. They are creating a course next semester, I think next year, for how to prompt these different platforms, because the prompting does matter. There's a good friend of mine who uses Synthesia, which is another program to make videos. You can use, you know, if you get a lot of emails and you know, and you need them summarized, what is it? I think it's a Chat Assist. You know, you can just go in and say, I need you to look at this email thread and tell me and summarize what it is and what are the next steps, right? And so I know that was Google Notes, right? I have a friend who uses Gemini. He's a kind of not a developer. You know, he builds things, right? And so when he gets an idea about, you know, something that he wants to build, and you know, he puts the specs in, and you know, so it doesn't, in any industry, regardless of what your interest is, you can use these tools to help you with your productivity, you know, in your business.
Absolutely. And Erica, which applications are you familiar with?
I use several. And I like how you position that, Iris, as a thought generator. I'm very particular about what I put in, but prompt engineering, you know, you don't have to wait. I don't know which university this is, but you don't have to wait till next year for a class. Just go online and Google, go to YouTube, find you some good prompt engineering courses. But I use ChatGPT, Claude AI. Let's see, I also use Fireflies. Fireflies, I use that as, because I have ADHD. So taking notes and summarizing is very challenging at times. And so I love Fireflies AI because I can have a meeting, it's set up to automatically be a part of any meeting that's tied to my email address, or I can use my friendly app on my phone, record a meeting, and then I get a nice summary of what we discuss, action items, the whole nine. So it allows for me to focus. Right now, I am playing with Microsoft Copilot. Microsoft Copilot is similar to Gemini, but if you are one that is a part of the Microsoft ecosystem, so you're using OneDrive, all of the Microsoft products, Azure Cloud, Copilot is pretty much it's golden. I like it for the sake that as a business, if you're doing something as a business, you can turn your data into a data set, your organizational data into a data set, and establish rules, processes, and
Wait a minute,
policies.
which one was that does that?
Microsoft Copilot.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. We can talk after this, Chrissy. If you all are
I need a
Microsoft
good list, right?
Microsoft Copilot, I like what they're doing. You can actually turn your data set, you can turn your OneDrive and all of your Microsoft data into a data set that you can use for generative AI.
Yeah.
linking Microsoft Word to PowerPoint presentations,
Impact reporting.
all of that. Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
So,
It's
yes.
amazing the things, I mean, everyone should be using at least some degree of AI, and you probably are and don't even realize it. I see people in the chat putting in some of the applications they use. Please continue to do that. We're learning together today. But note-taking, it has changed. All of us should be using, I use Otterpilot for my note-taking. I also use a language model. Mine is named Luther. So I very much humanize mine to the point that my children are like, what is wrong with you? So my AI language model now shows up a lot like if you think Black Panther and Siri and how she interacted with hers. Like he knows a lot about me, and I use him in almost every aspect to bounce. He's a thought partner, really what he is for me. And no, he doesn't create the full content, but he's a great strategic thought partner. And really, I think I use him almost excessively here at ABC. Most of my staff use some sort of AI as well. In fact, Luther went down for about 20 minutes one day, and I almost didn't know what to do with myself. So let's talk about,
Chris, I
yeah.
would like to add this because you're bringing up using AI in the workplace. As an organization, you do want to make sure that you secure yourself, right? Because if you're and you need to define what your AI strategy is and make sure you're clearly defined on your policies around data sharing. Because if everybody in the workplace is using different AI tools, then you are at risk of having proprietary information now shared into a model.
Yes.
So make sure if you are bringing generative AI into your workplace that before you just unleash it out onto the organization, that you have really sat down and spoken with staff, met with your IT team, and clearly defined what the rules are and the monitoring around how generative AI is going to be used, because now you could potentially open yourself up for a security breach because now you have applications that have AI embedded in it. So just be mindful of that in the workplace when it comes to incorporating AI as a part of your day-to-day operations. I just wanted to make sure we add that.
No, thank you so much for that. And I know I probably need to tighten up my protocols around here, and I thank you for that reminder. Let's talk about how people are using it in the workplace, because what I will tell you is that if you are not using it in the workplace, I mean, it's just an opinion, and I think the three of us share it, is that you are missing out on increased productivity, on wasting less time, having additional resources. We are gone from the days of going to the library and pulling out the encyclopedia for data gathering and all of those things. Here are some standard ways that general workplaces who are leveraging it are using it, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. So definitely task automation and project management and time management tools. Many people are dealing with like virtual AI assistants and all kinds of things to help them to manage their workload. There are note takers, which we talked about. There is data collection. So up until, certain data cutoff points, AI is useful in market analysis work and pulling statistics and data for you. There's translation that's available. Now, a lot of people complain that AI is not always culturally competent. Do you have any thoughts about that?
Are you surprised?
No, I mean, like,
you can complain all day, but we go back to that trust issue. Drop your trust. They already got your data. Let's be fair. The moment that you signed up for something, they have your data. So if data is a concern, let that go, because it's already on the black market, right? But to come back and say that it's not culturally sensitive, or there's things or features that are excluded, that's because we're not in the data set.
Not only are we not in the data set, but we're not in the management roles creating and directing how those data sets are created, right? Because so I think that, the question is who's behind that Iron Curtain, right? Because, it could be someone from India, it could be someone from Bangladesh, the people who are a part of this chain of data input are not even necessary, they could be anywhere. So I definitely agree that the idea that we are not in the spaces where decisions are being made that would make that a consideration is definitely something to be noted.
One of the ways it lists, the research list is resume screening. And I actually use it for that too. I'll do something like I'll cut and paste the whole resume in and I'll say, pull out information relevant to these 4 areas of interest for me, and I'll create candidate profiles from that. And so it's a little bit de-identifying, but it's also cutting down on review time. So a lot of people are using it for that, for HR functions, for workplace wellness, designing content. Of course, I also use it to design graphics and videos and those kind of things. So how could people not be using this at this point and be still competitive?
It's going
Well,
to be
I
very
mean,
difficult. Go ahead, Erica. It's going to be very difficult as time goes on, because even in the education space, using the technology to create individualized education programs that allow students to move through content, that is something that is still not widely accepted even in the education space. So there is a great deal of opportunity when it comes to, like you said, the trust issue and figuring out and worrying about how it's going to displace workers, but also realizing that it's here, right?
Yeah,
And so
lean in.
we have to lean in, we have to lean in.
So it's funny, I see my friend Franklin Baker on the webinar today, but I also use AI for grant writing and grant reporting, and it has streamlined those processes. So if you thinking that people are out here writing these heartfelt
Yeah.
reports and stuff anymore, but I will say that I've put the time in with the AI that I use, that it actually knows the things I'm working on. It actually can regurgitate to me what's important to me. One of the exercises I saw online were that people were being prompted to enter prompts that ask your AI, like, what do you know about me that maybe, I should be highlighting about myself? Or if you had to draw a picture that depicted what's important to me, what would it, and it really tells you about your relationship with AI and how much it really represents who you are. Like, there's only so many times I'm going to ask Luther to tell me something about racial equity before he can probably be almost a better representation for my work than even I can. What do we think? What other ways are people, or should they be leveraging it at work, especially Black professionals?
when we say at work, besides the surface level things that we've discussed from thought as a thought partner, now we're venturing into, let's just add AI strategy. What's the policy? Now, if I lean to the side of, where are areas that we can leverage AI as a potential revenue generating opportunity, or looking at an organization as a whole, factoring in automation, right? Taking your current customer data set and potentially mashing it up via an automated tool, whether you're going to use Zapier, Make.io, any automated tool with GCP. Microsoft has their, ADF, SSIS, what have you, any type of automation tool that allows for you to take your customer data or your organizational data and bring in other sources and leverage the capability of AI to find different revenue opportunities, to work with you with identifying new customer segments. Those are ways that an organization can leverage AI and automation. That's when now an organization can really take advantage of what's possible with this technology. So look at automation and incorporating that with the language models, or better yet, take automation, incorporate it with your own data set, and then bringing in some other sources. But I would like to add that these models, they tell you in very, very fine print, check the sources.
Mm-hmm.
And so you got to remember the data behind this is coming from somewhere. So you always want to put on an equitable hat when it comes to questioning the source of the data. What was the reason for the source? Who collected it? Who was included? Who was excluded? How does it impact the decision making that I'm now bringing this data set into what I'm trying to deliver? But if you start to align AI with automation within your organization, that's where you are really moving yourself forward into the now.
You're absolutely right.
And
So go ahead, Iris.
one of the key things is being able to provide task automation so that your workers can concentrate on more strategic thinking, more problem solving, more creativity, as opposed to doing those kind of tasks. So when you go into an organization and the things that are routine can be automated and your staff can be really it's just like, for example, in the insurance industries that use automation. For example, you send in a claim, and so it reviews the claim and it pays it if it's okay, right? The parameters that they put in it, if the claim meets those parameters, it's fine. It frees up the staff to actually concentrate on on claims where there are issues, right? And so your staff can really focus more on strategic goals and and problem solving and creativity, as opposed to doing those things that are just really time wasters, right? I mean, they take up a lot of time, but that time could be used for more productive activities in your organization.
Absolutely. So as we talk about equity in the workplace, and we know a lot of organizations are rolling back their DEI efforts, which, DEI after George Floyd's murder was really a response to known racism and disinclusion in the workplace, right? But it doesn't just affect Black people and other marginalized communities, the LGBTQ community, veterans, disabled people. Now we have to have even more tools to make sure that we're navigating sometimes what might not be fairness in workplaces. And so some of the benefits of implementing AI in the workplace include automating processes, right? Like, so we're taking removing some of the bias and ensuring more fairness in decision making. That we are using emerging technologies now to create the opportunity for people to grow their skill sets. And I love that, right? Like, because everybody's not going to have an advanced degree or have opportunities to do the same level of leadership development, but here's an opportunity that we can extend to everyone. What else? How can this change opportunity specifically in workplaces?
I'm going to say something that may be controversial.
Okay, let's go.
Before the 21st, we could have spoken of equity, but I think equity, we're not playing that game anymore.
It's gone.
It's gone.
Yeah.
Was it ever there?
No,
No, not really.
Okay. Okay.
Right.
It's a nice, cool word, but
we enjoyed a few years of, and then
right.
we had, okay.
It's a nice, cool word, but to now, I'm not saying that we should not continue to push forward for equity, but our approach, we have to be more strategic with what we do. I mean, it's down to the point now where, they are eliminating the very protections that could have relied on or reference equity for, right? So I think now we have to have a separate discussion. I think it's now time for us to see, as we started the conversation out with, how can we leverage AI to get us ahead, whether that's new business opportunities. If I'm already a business owner, how can I bring it into my business to position me properly? Because to think that we can bring something into a workplace where now they're putting laws in place or stripping away laws to protect us from those very things, to me, we have to decide and pick and choose or identify the proper areas to devote our energy and time to leverage this technology to get ahead.
And what I would also say is that, words matter. And for me, I think that we need to shift from this idea of being workers, because work is getting ready to change significantly. And what we're talking about is AI's impact along the labor continuum, from when people think of things like this, they think of the person who's making minimum wage. It's going to affect the entire labor continuum. You have, significantly for the first time, white collar workers in middle management, right? And so I think that we really are going to have to change our thought process. We have talent, and how can we deploy our talent? How can we access AI tools in the deployment of our talent to make an economic impact in our communities? And so I think that is for me, what is, you know, that shift that, you know, I'm going to do a new thing, right? It's like we need to start thinking in new ways, um, uh, because there will be new industries, there will be new things created as AI takes away some of the old things, right? Can we, you know, how can we stay on the cuff so that we can, you know, we can recognize and capitalize on what those new things might be that will come out, you know, as AI, you know, impacts our society. So yes.
And you know who can help you figure it out? AI, right?
Yeah,
Like it
yeah,
can help you
absolutely,
strategize what the options are. It can give you case
absolutely.
studies of success. It can help identify challenges. And, you know, it is in some ways an equalizer, right? Like as I look at resumes that are coming across for open positions, even at ABC, I'm like, gosh, we all had the same AI that you could have run this through, right? Like it
Right,
becomes an
exactly.
equalizer in writing business plans. It becomes an equalizer in loan applications. It becomes an equalizer in all those things that can lead us to wealth building really much quicker. And I think we have to position ourselves, as both of you said, to really take advantage of that. What
And
are
if
your
I may add for your, sorry, Chris, if I may add for your audience, for the audience to consider to the point about wealth building, you know, this is the time to take those skills that you have and consider creating your own Chat GPT. Because one of the things technology cannot do is the knowledge that you've acquired individually and your brain has now processed and come up with creative ways of doing. Technology can't replace that. And if you're able to tap into your unique gift, skill, and talent, what sets you apart in the industry, and now take that and shift that to an agent, a co-pilot, or a generative AI, Chat GPT, and now you sell it, now you have tapped into pretty much you are now selling your intellectual property. So what organizations have used to gain from you to make money, now the playing ground is set up now where, hey, I can now take my knowledge and create something, and now my intelligence has become is up for sale, and that's reoccurring revenue. So those are different ways for workers to really think strategically about how can I take what I've done, package it up, and now sell it out for others to use. That's one way to think about it.
And now is the time to do that because, like I said, you know, everyone is trying to figure out how to incorporate AI. It's because it's still relatively new in the workplace, right? And so now is the time to do it so that you can be a first mover, you know, and have that initial impact.
There's a question in the chat, and it asks, "What are your thoughts about AI decision making and equity in healthcare?" Any thoughts
Oh,
on?
wow. There is an organization that I spoke with a couple of weeks ago, and they're using AI and machine learning as a part of their decision-making process when it comes to identifying what the course of action is when someone has a specific illness that involve other key players, primary care, radiology, physical therapy. But what's interesting, they are pulling from different data sets to make the recommendations for the physicians. Excellent idea, but you have to now understand what may work for a 65-year-old white woman who may be taking a set of medications will be different from a 65-year-old African-American woman who could be possibly taking the exact same medicine. So I am deeply concerned about AI being introduced into the decision-making process for healthcare, because we do not participate in clinical studies. And studies have shown for those who do participate, people of color who do participate in clinical studies, medicines work totally different. So there's no course of action for that. And if we are not a part of those data that are being leveraged to make decision, then this is, to me, this is a passion of mine, health equity and AI. I'm curious, I'm interested, and I'm also fearful of the potential risk.
And I think that's why regulation and regulatory, you know, issues come into play, right? Because the question becomes, AI will not be right all the time.
Correct.
Any area, even when you're just putting in, you know, so what happens when something goes wrong, right? What happens and who keeps track of that? And what are the regulations and the guardrails that are put in place to track that? So I think that, the conversation around, regulatory factors in AI, guidelines, laws, the AI architecture, what is it? That's a whole separate conversation, because it's here. For example, pathologists now, AI is reading, the pathology, the samples, right? And so it's happening. But what happens when it goes wrong? Just like what happens when you're misidentified and you're arrested, or murdered. You know what I'm saying? In the past, we have to figure out um, how to better make an impact when things go wrong, how to identify it, how to report it, and how to make how to make it matter. You know what I'm saying when it comes to our communities.
And
So let's give it, oh, go ahead, Erica. It's all right.
this is why we should really be on the front door of the White House, because the prior administration had executed an executive order for the exact thing that you're talking about. And the current administration has stripped it away out, and their response is it stifles innovation. And so what do we give to be innovative? What are we losing? What are we gaining? And to that very point that you made, Iris, and just thinking about what has just happened over the past couple of weeks, that needs to be called out more than anything. The security, the security and the provisions that are being set place at a policy level to ensure the protections of those people that are participating and are engaging, whether knowingly or unknowingly, and practices that can impact our lives, right? What is protecting and guarding us? So if the audience have not read the previous administration's executive order around AI protections, I would encourage you to do so, and then compare that in contrast to what the current administration has just removed.
And I think one of these overarching things about any technology is just because, and I'm going to bring in my, my biblical reference here. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do it. Right. And we have to kind of also have that conversation about, as we look at corporations and how they're utilizing AI and the impact that it has on the community, not just, with the loss of jobs, but environmentally and all those kinds of things. The question is, because I don't know if you know that every 50 prompts that you prompt in ChatGPT uses about 16 ounces of water, right? And so the question becomes, as we, kind of understand the benefit of it, that we also kind of balance, what can we do and what should we be doing? And as we look at these corporations and what they're doing, it's like, okay, prior to like the 80s, there was this concept, there was this stakeholder concept, right? That even though you were a corporation, your stakeholders mattered, right? Your employees, the communities that you were in. But now we're in this shareholder, we've been in this shareholder mode for so many years. So somewhat, it doesn't matter what's happening where you are, but as long as the shareholder gets the value, and they could be in, Timbuktu somewhere. So all of those things that impact our the results of implementing AI, we have to think about that and figure out how we can advocate, like you said, how we can make sure that the guardrails are there and that that people aren't being hurt, so.
So as we start to wind down, we want to make sure that we leave, especially Black professionals, with some strategies to get involved. We already agreed that we need to leverage it. The time is now. We cannot wait. So where do they start? So, those of us who are using it maybe even peripherally and not to our best advantage. There are people who haven't used it at all. Where would you advise people to get started?
So I have some suggestions on, because not just, professionals, but we all have many roles and we are professionals, but we're also parents, we're also aunties, we're also members of organizations, we also attend churches. So the first thing is that, learn about it, right? There are many, you can go on Coursera, you can go on YouTube. There are a lot of different, if you want to take a course, most universities now, these open universities, you can take a course and learn about it, and then learn about how it is being used in your industry. Learn about how it's being used in your industry. We've talked about the digital divide, learn about your community and whether, the people in your community have access to digital resources that they can utilize to get engaged with AI. If you have young people that you have access to, definitely, because I'm going to tell you that literacy is an issue in our communities. Okay. And you cannot engage with any of these platforms if you do not have a good grasp of literacy, that is being able to read and being able to write. You can't prompt, you can't create if you can't do that. And as an educator, what I'm telling you is that our young people, and not just our young people, many of them are struggling. And you don't have to take my word for it. You can go look at any school district online where prior to probably this year they had to post their literacy scores, that our children can't read, right? And so that is, if you want to go to the beginning, our high school kids. So that's another area that you can focus, providing opportunities for workshops for your young people in your community, your churches, for your elderly. A lot of our elderly don't have access to digital resources, right? And so I think that, those are a lot of ways that we can impact. Go to conferences. There are several organizations, tech-based organizations, where people get together and have started having discussions with your friends and with your colleagues, so yeah, a lot of different ways.
Any other thoughts?
I'm just going to do a shameless plug since I have the platform.
Okay.
Learning, definitely. I am hosting a webinar on February 5th for business professionals to learn about AI and how to use it ethically. They get a chance to see how AI can apply to their operations. So there's a start. I can share the link with you. Education, I don't want to restate what Iris has said, but it's education, and all of us have some type of digital device, right? Where you can just jump on and just Google. Use ChatGPT, for instance. You can sign up for different feeds. So you have Feedly. That's the one that I use. There are a couple of others, but they're content feeds that you can subscribe to, and then put in the topics that are of interest to you, and then it will send you articles about that topic. I will also say, given the recent administration, the current administration's $500 billion AI infrastructure bill to the private industry, definitely tap into that. If you are a focus-driven person and AI is going and you want to look at different ways to tap into a new business, you definitely want to stay plugged into what's happening with that infrastructure bill, because there's opportunities there for you. And I would like to also echo what Iris said about literacy. You cannot take advantage of what AI has to offer fully if there is a literacy gap. And we already know that we have this great digital divide. AI has just made it much, 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 much wider. And if you lack the digital literacy, then that's where you should start first before you even consider factoring in AI. So yeah, online learning, turn your device into a computer, search, subscribe, and really the ownership of educating yourself is in your hands. You can get ChatGPT on your phone, Claude on your phone, Copilot on your phone. So now the responsibility is not on others, but you can really take the ownership within yourself, using the technologies that are available to do the search and get access to that.
And they're even wearables. I've tried to get one of my directors to order a wearable, right? Like to take stuff. And there's a difference between recording and transcribing. So that's legal. But on that question, before we have you all give your closing remarks, there is one question that says, are there specific policies and regulations that you're aware of, local, state, federal, that we absolutely should be familiar with? Anything jump out?
I don't know of anything locally. That's what I'm trying to tap into. But what was there federally has been removed.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I say tap into the White House. And there's this $500 billion infrastructure bill for AI that has been spoken of by the current administration. So tap into that. So just Google, subscribe. If you listen to any of the business channels, business media channels, they're always talking about what's happening AI and infrastructure and federal rules and regulations. Definitely tie into that. So now it's time, my response is now it's time to shift your mindset and to get tapping in and getting all the knowledge that you can get. But subscribe to the White House, excuse me, their website, and stay tuned to what's being released from there.
So as we close, I want to give both of you an opportunity to kind of give some inspirational and closing remarks, where you want to leave people and how you want to center them around what it means to leverage AI and automation. And we'll go the opposite way. So we'll start with Iris and close with Erica.
What I would like to say to everyone listening is that God has called you for such a time as this. Tap in, understand your why, understand your purpose, and get busy. Learn about AI, learn how it can be applied in your work, in your business, in your family, in your community, and get busy. Do not be afraid of it. Do not be afraid of it, because it is here and there are many useful applications of it. And, and let's not get bogged down in what it is going to do to us. Let's look at what it can do for us.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Erica?
I love it, Iris. I'm going to follow in the same vein and use scripture to inspire. The word tells us God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of love, power, and of sound mind. So understand that this is the opportunity to take advantage of the power and the sound mind that you have to now tap into new opportunities. The one thing that, and I'm just going to give you all an example. I think over the course of the last weekend or the weekend prior, they have established a university on TikTok. So people are now taking their knowledge and turning it into a university. So now you're going into micro learning, game changer.
Absolutely.
So this is an opportunity to take your knowledge and what you didn't have before, baby, the doors are wide open. But do not allow fear to stop you from pushing forward. Allow this opportunity for you to tap into that mind that we have, that God gave each and every one of us individually, and build something new. Because I see this as a grand opportunity. Creativeness, especially within the Black and Brown community, is about to explode. They haven't seen anything yet.
Thank you so much. Now, while I'm closing, I want to make sure, and I'll let you speak, that you all put your contact information into the chat, because several people have asked for it. They want to stay connected to you. And then also we'll share the registration, but I want people, if they want to reach out to you, to have both of your contact information. Iris, have a couple more minutes.
I want to respond to my friend in the chat who objected to our use of God in this conversation. What I would like to offer is for you to take what we have said and interpret it through whichever lens it is that you feel most comfortable with. This is my lens, and I speak from my lens, but I would like to make sure that you do not discount the conversation because we've used the word God. Look, what is it translated into whatever language works for you, so that you can get the gist of what we're saying. We are certainly not meaning to be offensive, but again, we are showing up. I am showing up personal, local, and immediate. I am showing up as my authentic self.
And
And
we appreciate that. That's
yeah,
what we call for. And
yes,
we appreciate that. Certainly wanting to make sure that this webinar is a representation of you contributing your lived experience and expertise at the same time. And also never want to not give a reminder that I've been positioned to decide what is and isn't appropriate for this webinar series. So let me thank you both for your wonderful contributions. We're going to keep pushing and keep going. In February, ABC will be back with another Equity at Work session, right? And the topic then is going to be the pay transparency movement and closing racial wage gaps. And so we're so excited to continue to share expertise of our community for people to show up authentically. And guess what? I will close and leave you all with the love of God. Thank you for joining Associated Black Charities. This is Chrissy Thornton, unapologetically for ABC. Good evening.
bye-bye. Thank
Good
you.
afternoon.